We tend to think of change in, what, 4-8-year political cycles?
Right.
Our sources remind us that real societal change it's a continuum. It spans millennia. So the vision we're discussing, it extends far beyond our lifetimes.
But the mission today is to pinpoint what we can do now.
Exactly. 4 specific foundational initiatives we have to begin right now to steer that development in a positive direction.
And those 4 pillars are the backbone for this whole deep dive. So we have Initiative 1, which is radical automation and technology. Initiative 2, a new paradigm for energy. Initiative 3, architectural design, which is tied into global resource management. And then finally, Initiative 4, the big one, the evolution of consciousness.
That's where the rubber meets the road.
The human element.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Because if we get the first 3 right, but, fail on the 4th,
Mm-hmm.
the whole thing just collapses back into the old patterns.
Okay, so let's start with the immediate future. Initiative 1, technology, computers, and AI.
Mhm.
The primary goal that's outlined in the sources it's pretty straightforward. Total automation.
Total automation.
We're talking about machines handling, the vast majority of all those monotonous, repetitive tasks across every sector: production, transport, city maintenance.
All of it. And that transition requires a very specific kind of machine. These are not just advanced assembly line robots.
No.
They need complex, adaptive programming. They need protocols for self-maintenance, even reconstruction, a constant energy supply. And they have to be built from materials that can be fully recycled back into the system.
And the source gives a timeline for this, which is, honestly, it's remarkably optimistic.
It is. Within 3 to 4 decades, it argues we could have the necessary hardware, both the physical machines and the computational power.
3 to 4 decades is ambitious. But when you look at how fast technology is accelerating, it also feels kind of plausible.
The critical part is the integration, that optimal link between the software and the hardware.
The mind and the body of the machine.
Exactly, giving them the flexibility and durability they need to handle real-world tasks safely.
And that brings us right to the safety question, the whole sci-fi fear.
It does. But the sources are very clear here. They push back against those standard dystopian narratives.
How so?
The system is designed to require, this is key, minimal use of general artificial intelligence. It's not about creating conscious beings.
So it's more about creating highly resilient, automated infrastructure managers.
Exactly. It operates mostly on these highly sophisticated, pre-programmed task-specific commands. You break down complex jobs into these traceable sequences. The programming is just intensely focused on self-repair, on diagnosing and fixing other machines, and, of course, on robust protocols for human safety. Plus, strong anti-hacking measures.
So it's about control and redundancy, not fighting sentient robots.
That's the idea.
And here's where it gets really interesting, because the source points out we already have so many of the foundational technologies. The whole thing can feel like science fiction, but you just have to look at history. That Jules Verne analogy is perfect. Flying to the moon, deep ocean exploration, those ideas were absurd 130 years ago.
It's the perfect analogy for our current trajectory. I mean, we have undeniable proofs of concept being developed right now.
Like what?
Well, think about 3D printing for construction, or the gains from quantum computing. Assembly line robots are everywhere. We even have robot chefs, self-driving vehicles.
The Henna Hotel in Japan, right, almost totally automated.
Right. And then you have hydroponic farming, bringing food production indoors, close to the consumer. These are all separate pieces of the puzzle.
And this blueprint is what links them together into one cohesive system.
And that system-wide automation, well, it brings us face-to-face with the biggest technical hurdle.
Initiative 2, energy.
Energy and energetics.
It has to be the foundational requirement. An automated world running on electric everything. It needs a massive, constant, uninterrupted energy supply.
And the goal has to be clean, reliable, and unlimited power. We have to transcend burning fossil fuels. It's that simple.
So where do the sources suggest we start?
Well, they actually take us back to figures like Nikola Tesla. He spent his whole life researching this only for his work to be, seized or classified.
Right.
But today we're slowly reclaiming that vision. We're talking about smart energy grids, zero energy buildings, buildings designed for a two-way transit of electricity.
So they don't just consume power, they can feed it back into the system.
Exactly. The whole infrastructure becomes like a massive distributed battery.
Okay, so we need capacity and efficiency. Where do we generate all this unlimited power?
The sources list several areas, things we're already using but need to expand aggressively. So, geothermal, tapping into the Earth's core heat.
Which is practically limitless.
Then hydro, tidal, wind power, all very effective in the right locations. And of course, the big one, solar.
The sun, our
Yeah.
closest thermonuclear reactor.
They have to harness it better.
And the solar conversation is key. We all see the costs of panels coming down. They're everywhere now, from remote farms to satellites. But the source brings up this idea of creative genius, solar roadways.
I love this concept.
Right. Durable, transparent road surfaces that just gather energy and then distribute it to nearby buildings or even to the vehicles driving on them. Every street becomes a power generator.
It totally shifts infrastructure from a cost center to a resource center. But the sources are also really frank about the limitations we have now.
The efficiency.
The efficiency. Commercial panels today convert at what, about 18%?
Right. And the ones for satellites get up to 50%.
Exactly. So that gap, that 32% gap, that's the work that needs to happen on Earth. Closing that gap is what makes solar the global primary power source.
And for the really long-term, virtually limitless power, the conversation always turns to thermonuclear fusion. That's the holy grail, isn't it?
It is. It's the pinnacle of what we can imagine right now. Fusion is what powers the stars. It's the opposite of the fission we use now.
And it's cleaner.
So much cleaner. It uses hydrogen isotopes from water as fuel. It doesn't produce that long-lived radioactive waste. And the reaction itself is thousands of times more powerful.
And this isn't just theory anymore.
Absolutely not. You have the International ITER project in France. 45 countries working together. The goal is to be fully operational by 2050.
Wow.
The technical challenge is immense. I mean, you're sustaining plasma hotter than the sun, but the momentum is there.
And even with fusion on the horizon, the sources throw down this ultimate challenge for the future. Dark energy.
Yeah, the invisible enigma. Calculated to be, what, 68.3% of all energy in the universe?
And we can't even begin to access it. It's humbling.
A little footnote for future generations to figure out. But before we jump to architecture, there's a huge energy issue to solve right here on Earth. Food production.
Ah, yes. The energy needed for livestock is just colossal.
Raising, feeding, slaughtering, refrigerating, transporting. It's a massive drain.
And the source proposes replacing that whole system with cultured meat?
It feels like the natural bridge, doesn't it, between advanced energy and intelligent resource management. It's the ultimate optimization.
So what's the process?
You take a biopsy, get some stem cells, and then you grow the muscle and fat tissue in a bioreactor under lab conditions. It's humane, it's practical, and it doesn't require everyone to become vegan.
The proof of concept for the first burger was way back in 2013, so what's the goal now?
Miniaturization, decentralization, making the process compact enough to fit into a kitchen appliance for homes, for restaurants.
So you completely eliminate slaughterhouses, transportation, refrigeration.
You cut it all out. And the source also points out the medical benefits. The same technology can be used for growing complex organs for transplants. It solves several crises at once.
Which makes the transition to Initiative 3, the cities of the future, much smoother.
Mm-hmm.
If you have unlimited clean energy and decentralized food production, the next logical step is building the intelligent environment to support it all.
And again, this isn't a new idea. The sources cite Walt Disney's original vision for EPC-UP back in the 60s.
Right, the experimental prototype community of tomorrow.
He was genuinely trying to solve urban disharmony and pollution. It was meant to be a real, living, self-governing city, but then he passed away, and it morphed into a theme park.
But the vision wasn't lost.
No, it was championed by Jacques Fresco, an inventor, futurist. The sources call him a true genius. He dedicated his entire life to this, proposing a shift away from our monetary and political systems.
So what he called a resource-based economy, an RBE. Okay, let's stop there because that's a central concept, the RBE. It can sound pretty abstract. If you get rid of money, how does an economy even function?
That is the crucial question. The RBE, as the source defines it, works by allocating resources based purely on scientific assessment, global availability, verifiable need. It gets rid of price, debt, supply, and demand.
So resources are just measured, inventoried, and then distributed globally by automated systems.
Right.
To maximize efficiency and minimize waste.
Yes. The focus shifts entirely from transactional profit to optimal human welfare, from a system based on scarcity to one based on abundance.
Wow.
And that required Fresco to design these complex blueprints for modular, circular cities that are physically designed to support this model.
And the first step has to be a prototype, like the Venus Project in Florida. Why is that prototype so crucial?
It's the ultimate proof of concept. An educational center. It has to demonstrate that this circular, resource-based design can actually function without currency.
That it can support a healthy population, manage its own waste, its own energy.
It's a living laboratory. You needed to refine the models, test the software, and train the first generation of people who would live and work there.
And once that's established, the blueprint suggests this: gigantic global leap, declaring all the world's resources a common heritage. That sounds like an almost insurmountable political hurdle.
It's the ultimate declaration of interdependence. It would require massive international cooperation, and then after that declaration, meticulous global surveys of all of Earth's resources. Everything.
To make sure they can be distributed according to the RBE's principles?
Yes. And even the creators of the Venus Project admit, this is not a perfect model.
Yeah.
Perfection is impossible in a dynamic system. But it would be vastly healthier than what we have today.
Which brings us inevitably to Initiative 4, the evolution of consciousness, thought, and spirituality. We've optimized the machines, we've fixed the energy supply, designed the perfect city. But if the people living there are still psychologically tied to the old system, to greed, rivalry, scarcity, the whole thing fails.
It is the greatest challenge because it's internal. All the external systems, the RBE, fusion energy, they're just tools. The system requires a critical mass of society to understand, accept, and actually request this shift.
Right, and the source outlines 2 paths to get there. One desirable, one not so much.
The undesirable path is driven by an external cataclysm.
Like severe resource depletion, catastrophic climate change, a world war.
Right, and the risk there is immense. Because in a crisis, the dominating financial elites tend to consolidate power. They manipulate the fear to implement their own control structures, and we're right back where we started.
So external pressure is risky. The desired path, then, has to be internal, the inner voice, as the source calls it.
Real progress requires an internal realization. And the other initiatives, they're the enablers of this shift.
How so?
Well, if automation covers our basic needs, if it eliminates the need for money and wage slavery, then the body is freed from the daily grind of survival.
And if a healthy environment and proper education are provided.
The mind is free to pursue its full potential.
So when human energy is no longer consumed by survival anxiety, it naturally gets redirected toward community, innovation, self-actualization.
Precisely. The inner voice can finally emerge when the external pressures are gone. Freeing the body and mind allows the soul, that innate desire for peace and connection, to realize that our welfare is inseparable from the welfare of the whole planet.
And that realization leads you organically to the conclusion that we have to take care of each other. We have to share. It's an evolution driven by freedom, not by fear.
This shift from a mindset of accumulation to one of contribution is the ultimate hurdle of this whole blueprint.
It requires a profound psychological decoupling from thousands of years of systemic thinking.
It requires embracing responsibility. We'd be moving from a reactive society, always managing crises, to a proactive one, focused on optimization, exploration, creation. The source argues that's our natural state once survival needs are met.
So let's synthesize this. We've deep dived into automation, clean energy, resource-based cities, and an evolved consciousness. The source material is adamant that the technology, the blueprints, the scientific knowledge, it all largely exists today.
That is the ultimate takeaway. The sources argue we have to actively seek this information out, understand the mechanics of the RBE, the reality of fusion, so the decision to pursue this future is an informed, conscious choice.
Made by the masses, not a philosophical dream.
The question isn't if the technology can be developed. It's if we, as a species, are ready to embrace the benefits and the responsibilities of sharing unlimited energy and abundant resources.
So if the required machines, the sustainable energy, the architectural blueprints are all being researched and proven, and if the only hurdle left is human consensus, what fundamental fear or ingrained system, monetary, political, whatever, is truly holding us back from allowing this extraordinary and magnificent future to begin today? Think about the implications of that next time you look at the world's problems.